the inevitable appointment with the self. The soul is tracking you. It's watching what you're doing in your life. And it's noticing whether you are living a life of equilibrium, whether you are living a life of extremities, whether you are living an unhealthy, toxic life full of shame and reactivity. It's noticing all of this. And when the inevitable, he calls it the knocking, comes in your unconscious, and you're not attending to that, then external things can happen in order to have you wake up and see, what have I been neglecting within myself? What have I been neglecting in my soul that I really need to attend to now? So in midlife, I would say that it is very important for you to look at that as an opportunity. Sometimes in midlife, people lose everything. They lose their families through an extramarital affair, if it's a male or a female. The whole house of cards can come down. But whatever happens, and the pain that comes from that is important to be seen as a transformative kind of pain. It's important to see, what can I no longer do in the way that I've been doing it? What can I no longer repeat in the way that I've been repeating it? How does my value system have to shift and change in order for me to grow and attend to my soul in a way that I've been neglecting it? That's what midlife crisis does. If you think in midlife that attending to the crisis is an outer event, in other words, it's time that I bought that car, or it's time that I bought that $1,000 pair of shoes, or it's time that I did something in a material world, you're going to find yourself coming up short, because it's not going to satisfy. The soul really doesn't care too much about material sustenance. What it cares about is how it's being fed and nurtured on a much more deeper level, and certainly on a creative level. And that's the way I try to sort of look at it and present it, which is, what can be done creatively, and how are you relating creatively? Because midlife crisis also talks about a loneliness. It also talks about the shadow part of ourselves, where maybe we've been living in isolation, afraid to let somebody know the real us. There's a perfect, wonderful example, actually, in an older movie, just came to mind as I was thinking about it, which I loved, with Jack Nicholson and Shirley MacLaine, called Terms of Endearment, and Deborah Winger, of course, because she was the mother who was dying of cancer. But the relationship between Shirley MacLaine and Jack Nicholson was a very poignant one in terms of midlife crisis. Here you have the recalcitrant astronaut always wanting to go out with the young girls, hiding like mad from, being involved with a woman his own age, who has wisdom, who has sexuality, who has passion, who has intellect, and yet he's terrified of the part of himself that needs to mature, needs to shift from being Peter Pan, who's hiding from basically his mortality and what it means to grow up, and be with a woman who can actually be his complement and be his great support, great companion. What she needed from him as a complement was to learn how to have fun. It's almost like her life had become too serious. She'd lost an essential fun part of herself. And so, when the two of them wound up sort of surrendering a little to one another, they were able to, as Hollis would say, share the genius of one another. And that's what happens, I think. There's an opportunity to surrender to the parts of yourself and maybe find that partner that complements you in a more mature way.